Alto resident my entire life, and since
Where do you live?
I live in Midtown down in Flowers Lane, near Loma Verde Middlefield Crossing. So I've been fostering kittens since I was 4 years old, and we've always taken them to animal services to be spayed and neutered in their clinic, and that's been a huge resource for us. Just because when the shelter opened 40 years ago, it was really pioneering in offering these low-cost spay neuter services to the community, because that's one of the most effective and easiest and humane ways to curb the stray animal population. Is really simple, and it just is really effective because it just cuts it right at the quick. And now the animal welfare movement is really much more robust than it was 40 years ago. Unfortunately, the animal services shelter, while it was pioneering back in 1972, it is now definitely not pioneering. So it's really fallen on the back burner. So I'm just really excited to have this opportunity to be able to bring the shelter into the 21st century, because I love animal services. I love visiting it. I was working with the city of Palo Alto in the MSC, and so I just, for my lunch breaks, I went over and checked out the kittens, and it was awesome seeing the volunteer commitment there. There's always somebody playing with the kittens, and always people out walking dogs, but it's just I love it so much, but it's like anything that you love, it needs to be updated, it needs to be cared for. It's given TLC to the community, and so it's time to give TLC back to it. Just the kennel situation, outdoor concrete, unsanitary kennels, the metal, small, tiny compartments for the cats. It's just like, it's so last century. So Pets in Need is a super exciting and ideal partner for us, because they are they have been continuing to be pioneering in the animal welfare movement of just having the state-of-the-art facility where they have roomy rooms and like apartments for all their animals, and they have educational programs and a bunch of fun things to get revenue, and it's just have a lot of resources for us.
Oh, I was going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. They have a lot of resources for us, and they're really excited to help us bring our shelter into the future.
Can you explain your background so that people understand?
Yeah, definitely. So as I said, I'm just a Palo Alto resident, and I started fostering kittens when I was 4 years old. I'm an animal lover, born and bred. I just graduated from UC Davis, studying environmental science and management. So animals and nature kind of go hand in hand. But so I was at UC Davis, and I was taking a couple of animal advocacy classes just for fun, and some like social media classes to get to know how to promote animal shelters. And then I came back, and the spay and neuter clinic had closed. So that was like a really shock to me. And so I just started digging. And in high school, I'd been involved in Friends of the Palo Alto Animal Shelter, and in the Palo Alto Humane Society. So I've always been a part of that community. My mom's always been a part of that community as well. But now is the time, I think, where it's really reached a turning point, or it's just like it's been really frustrating for me, for a Palo Alto resident, just to see all the amazing things that Palo Alto is. In so many ways, we are the future, right? We have all these glittering libraries. New Mitchell Park Library is awesome. Remodeled City Hall lobby area, and also like our parking structures are refurbished with electric charging vehicles. I count how many Teslas I can see on my 5-minute bike ride to work or something like that. I work as a swim coach for a local swim team. I'm kind of in between. I just graduated from UC Davis, so I'm going to grad school. So doing some part-time stuff and doing some environmental work as well.
Do you work at the animal shelter?
No, I've never worked at the animal shelter. So I've only been connected with the volunteer organizations connected with the animal shelter. So that's also something where it's been a little bit frustrating for me just as a normal resident, as a young resident, as high schooler. I couldn't really volunteer at the shelter just because the administrative stuff, it was always backlogged. So
really? Didn't let you volunteer there?
Yeah, it's a whole process. There's a waiting list to be a volunteer in the program.
You're kidding me. Why
I mean, there's like a lot of long-term dedicated volunteers there, and since the space is so small, there's not so much that you can do. There's I think it's twice a day dog walkers, and then cat, like 3-hour cat player shifts there, and so there's a lot of like retired people
So
helping
they
out.
have too many volunteers?
Yeah, they have too many volunteers. So that's
Interesting.
the awesome part, is that we
Okay.
have this capacity and we have this want from the community to be able to reform and renovate and revamp our shelters. So we've talked a lot about getting a foster program connected to the shelter as well. So I foster for other non-associated nonprofits, but who use the spay neuter clinic. But we don't directly feed into the shelter in any way. So it'd be great to be able to just make our program robust in that way.
So what do you think about the Pets in Need?
Yeah, Pets in Need is beautiful. I have to confess, I haven't actually been there, but I've seen a lot of their works, and I've heard about all their like the amazing resources. Like they have birthday party jams that they put on, and a bunch of like Girl Scout events that they put on there, and they just have this huge facility, state-of-the-art facility. Like they can house things like this. Administratively, they're very, very capable. I met with Al Malika, the executive director, and he was just so just business like efficient, very progressive, clear vision of how to get the animal community into the future. So I think that's something that we really need to grab onto. And I've also visited like Peninsula Humane Society, where they have a beautiful shelter as well, a sanctuary where they just have these big rooms. And so like as a Bay Area resident, I'm just very proud of all the like amazing infrastructure we have, and I love seeing. I'm telling my friends like go to the Peninsula Humane Society is awesome, but I'd never tell my friends to go to the Palo Alto Animal Services because it's not something that I'm super proud of to show off to people.
Interesting. So you're in favor of Pets in Need taking over the animal shelter?
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm in favor of being able to jumpstart that and fund that initial process. Pets in Need did a very again, expert and frugal assessment of the first initial steps, construction steps that we need to really push our shelter into the right direction. And so that $800,000 for phase 1 and $1.2 million for phase 2 is just like the bare minimum that we need just to make it a safe and sanitary place for the animals and for the staff in the center.
Do you know what the counter arguments are against having Pets in Need take over?
Yeah, so I've heard a little bit about just how they're not as experienced with all the different services that the Palo Alto Services currently supplies. But just in talking with Alan and just hearing like the different proposals they've had, they just sound so amenable to listening to the community and to listening to what we want. And again, they just have this progressive overarching vision that I think encompasses a lot of the things that Palo Alto Animal Services currently provides, and that PIN would be on board with. Just figuring out the logistics, of course, they'd have to manage. But again, they have excellent administrative management skills.
What about someone told me about union labor? Could that be an issue?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm not as well versed in. Just as a citizen, I don't pay attention to that as much.
Sure.
But I think that it's just, again, I think that there's a lot of frustration in the current staff community right now, just because of the conditions that they're in and because of the situation that they've been wrestling with for like at least the past decade, but much longer since the shelters opened. It's just hasn't kept up with the time. So I think it does need a breath of fresh air in terms of that. And I think also I would really push for more involvement of the next generation, or my generation, I would say, of being more involved in that community and being more involved in being able to support that community. Because a lot of the things I've seen with like working with the local nonprofits, we are kind of crazy cat ladies, like most of them are middle-aged women, and can get kind of out of touch with what's with the needs of the people down on the ground. But I think that as a millennial, this is an amazing time for animal welfare movement. Best Friends Animal Society just announced its goal of having every shelter in the nation no kill by 2025. I think that's something that this generation can really grab onto and really strive towards. And I think that Palo Alto has the opportunity right now to jump back into the forefront of the animal welfare movement by renovating our shelter.
So one other argument I heard was to take money from the animal zoo, from the animal zoo, from the junior museum,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
and moving it to the animal shelter. What's your thoughts about that?
I hadn't heard that proposal before, but what I kind of was curious about was because I know the main issue is this funding battle, and I was curious as to how the funds are allocated in terms of infrastructure, because I know we're in like infrastructure backlog, infrastructure debt,
Big time.
definitely, yeah.
Big time.
But at the same time, like I said, we're renovating all these community centers already, and animal services has been on the list for at least a decade, and nothing has happened. So I definitely think that it's turn. Yeah, the junior museum also just got a recent renovation as well, or is undergoing renovation right now. So
So
I
how do you
think
think people would feel like? Do you think that that should happen in terms of like we should take money from the animal from the junior museum, zoo to the animal shelter?
I think that you would be that would definitely get complicated, because I think it would be dealing with two
I just heard
different
this from my last.
Oh, really?
The
Yeah.
last person I talked with. Yeah, this is what their suggestion was. That's all I
Oh,
wanted to get.
interesting. Yeah. I hadn't really heard about that, but I'm just curious as to where, like, what our options are for that. Like,
Well, you can raise taxes.
yeah, which I think that we'd be willing to do that. I personally would be
or raise
willing
the
to do
fees
that.
at the shelter. That's another way.
Yeah, raising fees at the shelter.
Making it cost recovery.
Yeah. Also maybe solar panels that might help revenue in the long run.
Do you think the fees could be raised at the shelter?
At the state it's in now, I don't think so. So this is where it's.
No, I mean, let's say you renovate, then you raise the fees to cover the cost.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So again, this is all part
I
of
don't
this
know if that's just hard for me to know. Like, are the fees there high or low? Or
right now they're pretty low. Yeah.
So if you raise the fees, it's a way to cover the cost.
Yeah. And if we're really thinking about revamping the whole animal services program,
Sure.
and like giving more behavioral lessons to the dogs, better education for advertising the animals, promoting them in making them more appealing to the public, I think then they're definitely worth more and they're taken better care of. So yeah, definitely raising the fees.
What about the thought of using the private sector instead to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being, let's say, part of the police department, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making this totally a private sector type of thing.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm not too keen on, just because I think that this is an amazing opportunity for the city of Palo Alto to have a new pride and joy in our repertoire of amazing aspects of society here. And Animal Services was pioneering when it first opened in the animal welfare movement, and I think it's a really great resource to hold on to as a public, partnering with this nonprofit, Pets in Need. That's where I think they're the ideal candidate to be able to help us along, especially in this initial phase.
Greg, I think we're a bit out of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple minutes left. Any last words or thoughts or suggestions?
Yeah, so I just really, again, I'm just really excited that this has finally come to a turning point, or come to apex where we can grab onto this opportunity to be able to pull together community and pull together our friends in Redwood City, and be able to just pull this animal shelter into the 21st century, and to be able to serve the community, definitely generate a positive externality to Los Altos Hills communities as well. And
should we raise the fees for non-residents? Would that be another way of doing it?
I'm not a business economist in any way, so I'm not quite sure how that
These
would
are
work.
just things
But
I've
again,
heard from these are ideas that I don't know much about myself, but I've heard ideas from people.
Yeah, I know there's a
off-substance
lot. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas bouncing around. So it would be great to be able to map it out a little bit more. And again, I really appreciate the council being sticking with this, and even through all the crazy things that happen, just being able to power through and get this partnership with Pets in Need. But I really think if we really focus and kind of map out all options, it's definitely an attainable goal and a desirable goal for the community.
Well, great. Well, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave you with
Oh,
this.
thank you.
So
Okay, appreciate it.